Once, a group of boys stood as the strongest party in Japan, known for facing down horrors no one else dared to challenge. Their leader carried striking silver hair, earning the party its name, the Crimson Silverwolf. A monstrous dragon towered before them, jaws wide, but the party pressed forward without hesitation. 10 years earlier, dungeons had torn open across the world without warning, birthing threats humanity had never prepared for. The party carved through those threats regardless, cutting down powerful monsters and pushing into realms no human had reached before. Their coordination was seamless. A single opening was called out, and the leader struck true, landing the decisive blow together. They had built a party feared by every beast that crossed their path, unshaken even when death loomed close. The silver-haired leader stood above every battlefield undefeated, his name synonymous with victory. Then came the day everything ended. The leader and 2 others vanished without a trace, swallowed by the dungeon, leaving no clue behind. 5 years passed. Elsewhere, a young idol named Konami argued fiercely with her director, refusing to back down from a decision she'd already made. Her manager reminded her that a dungeon conqueror had recently been badly injured, a warning she brushed off, insisting she understood her own limits. The director tried to calm her, reminding her of her status as the company's top idol, while she pointed to soaring subscriber numbers on dungeon live streams as proof of the opportunity. Waiting to be seized, she declared her intention outright. She wanted to take part in a real dungeon excavation. Starting the following month, elsewhere, a young man went about an unremarkable morning in a quiet apartment, nothing about his routine hinting at the past he carried. On stage, Konami shined under the lights, microphone in hand, every bit the idol her fans adored. In another scene, she promoted dungeon gear on camera, cheerfully selling scarves meant to fight off underground cold, while a young man nearby remarked on how much things had changed. Back at the apartment, a knock interrupted the quiet, pulling him from his thoughts. A voice on the other side asked if he was Amano Fuyuki. He answered flatly that it was no longer his concern. The visitor introduced herself despite his reluctance, calling herself Shinonome Konami with practiced confidence. Later, sitting across from her in his own home, he found himself staring at the television, where her idol persona played out in real time, confirming that the woman before him truly was the famous Kanaman in the flesh. Fuyuki froze in place, stunned that a famous idol had shown up at his doorstep without warning. Konami reminded him she had already sent notice through her manager, insisting he must have known about her request beforehand. Realizing her outburst, she covered her face in embarrassment, apologizing for barging into his home so suddenly. She explained herself calmly, pointing out how popular live-stream dungeon excavations had become, and that her sponsor had pushed her toward the idea as well. She asked him directly to teach her how to clear a dungeon properly. Since he was a former conqueror, Fuyuki refused outright, insisting it was impossible. Undeterred, she dropped the formalities, asking to call him by name and pointing out they were close in age. Fuyuki admitted he used to be a conqueror himself, though he brushed off further explanation, saying that part of his life no longer concerned him. Konami pressed on, asking for his guidance just this once. As a special request from her top sponsor, he hesitated, listing his concerns. It had been years since he'd cleared a dungeon, and going in without proper preparation frightened him. Konami dismissed his worry, reminding him it was only a low-ranked dungeon meant for filming. She leaned in playfully, asking if he didn't want to spend time with a cute idol like her, just the 2 of them, before he could process it. They were already in a car together, Konami wondering aloud how things had spiraled this quickly while Fuyuki muttered his reluctance. Sitting apart in the back seat, Konami noticed he was keeping his distance and quietly registered that he was avoiding her. She reflected on how little she actually knew about him, admitting he might have once been a conqueror but seemed to have no reliability at all. The car pulled up to their destination, and Fuyuki muttered to himself that he'd find out the truth about her once the job was done. They arrived at a cave marked as a streamer, exclusive dungeon, with signs warning that reservations were limited to authorized members only. Konami explained that a sponsor had booked the site for the day, though he hadn't shown up yet before spotting something nearby and calling Fuyuki over. What she pointed to was a rental shop offering dungeon equipment, inviting them to pick out whatever gear they needed. Fuyuki eyed the offerings with suspicion, questioning whether the equipment looked reliable enough. While the shop's staff assured him it was safe since the dungeon ahead was meant for beginners, he studied her expression carefully, catching something in the moment that made him pause. Konami struggled over her gear choices, weighing magic resistance and defense stats, while Fuyuki urged her to hurry up since it was only a beginner dungeon. Fully equipped, Konami raised her arm in excitement, marveling at finally standing inside a real dungeon for the first time. Fuyuki explained that the dungeon wasn't fully cleared yet, though Konami questioned why monsters were still spawning if that were true. He clarified that the main paths had already been pinned, save for a restricted area marked off with warning signs, meaning the dungeon could effectively be called cleared. Konami found this hard to accept, pointing out that no dungeon in the world had ever been fully cleared, not even by the legendary Crimson Silverwolf party. Fuyuki agreed flatly, reminding her that monsters would keep respawning no matter how low the dungeon's level was. He then asked her directly why she wanted to clear a dungeon in the first place. He warned her that no place was ever truly safe inside a dungeon, and accidents happen all the time. Konami admitted she'd heard of such incidents, but explained that the demand for streaming content right now was simply too large to ignore. She confessed she felt scared too, but insisted that without taking risks, she had no path toward becoming famous. Fuyuki stayed quiet at first, and Konami smiled, joking that her willingness to face challenges was exactly what made a cute idol charming. He simply nodded, absorbing her answer without further argument, and the two continued walking deeper into the tunnel. Moments later, Konami grew frustrated, unable to understand why not a single monster had appeared despite everything he'd said. She muttered that it felt like someone had already cleared the area before them, then suggested she report the odd situation to her sponsor, comparing the experience to nothing more than a boring cave tour while wondering aloud what to do next since Fuyuki still hadn't taught her anything. Without warning, a masked figure lunged at her with a blade, her scream tearing through the tunnel. Fuyuki reacted instantly, catching the creature's strike and pulling Konami to safety, asking urgently if she was hurt. He brushed it off afterward, calling it nothing more than a weak, low-level monster. Though Konami snapped back that she had every right to be startled. Given how sudden the attack was, Fuyuki studied the creature's remains, recognizing it as the very monster that had escaped confinement, which raised the unsettling question of whether this dungeon had truly been booked properly at all. Before they could process it, a violent gust of wind tore through the cave, and Fuyuki swept Konami up to shield her from the blast. Konami cried out in shock, demanding to know if another monster was attacking them. A mocking voice interrupted, remarking on how surprisingly fast Fuyuki could run despite appearing to be nothing more than an ordinary man. A group of armored figures stepped forward, their leader laughing as he admitted he hadn't even used an advanced spell before turning his attention back to the real reason for his visit. The man greeted Konami warmly, revealing himself as the son and heir of the Nozomanu Corps, her agency's biggest sponsor, leaving her visibly unsettled by the sudden reunion. He explained that his family's support was the very reason her agency had risen to prominence, then noticed Fuyuki standing beside her and asked pointedly who the man was. Nozomani's companions teased Konami, accusing her of secretly dating Fuyuki, mocking the idea that guidance could come from someone they dismissed as a mere wimp. Nozomanu grinned wide, offering to guide her through the dungeon himself instead, insisting there was no shame in admitting her feelings even if the rumor were true. He pressed further, claiming he could suppress any leak to the public if the relationship were real, while his companions egged Konami on, asking how she could refuse kindness from someone like him. He dismissed Fuyuki entirely, telling him he could leave now since a third wheel wasn't needed there. Nozomanu puffed himself up with pride, declaring himself a B-rank conqueror destined to rise to a rank, reminding everyone he was the son of the second biggest corporation in dungeon gear manufacturing. The other members warned Konami that upsetting him could cost her career, since he was her sponsor after all. She brushed off the concern, insisting she could always handle herself, while Fuyuki argued it was none of his business yet added that she stood no chance against him. Nozomanu turned to Konami, asking her to share her true feelings with him directly, calling it a perfect opportunity for the two of them. He pushed his demand further, asking if she was ready to devote both her heart and body to him, showing endless loyalty as proof. Konami smiled and answered simply, apologizing quietly to Fuyuki as she spoke Nozomani's name. She turned back with a composed apology, explaining she hadn't meant to put Fuyuki on the spot and that she understood if he wanted to speak ill of her for it. Fuyuki said nothing, simply telling her she could leave now, his expression unreadable. Nozomanu took her hand warmly, praising how brightly a cute idol always smiled in the face of challenges. Fuyuki muttered under his breath, repeating the phrase back sarcastically as touching, while Konami merely smiled on beside him. He finally spoke aloud, declaring that he was giving up, startling both Konami and the rest of the group with his sudden shift in tone. Nozomanu sneered, saying he'd guessed Fuyuki wouldn't back down until he beat him thoroughly, prompting his men to mock Fuyuki as a worthless wimp who should get lost. Nozomanu summoned dark energy around himself, promising to teach Fuyuki exactly what happened to those foolish enough to stand in his way. His men jeered, delighting in Fuyuki's fear as Nozomani's magic gathered force, while Konami shouted for Fuyuki to run ahead like she told him. Nozomanu taunted that he wouldn't kill him, only make him suffer, as Fuyuki urged Konami to stay back since the fight had grown too dangerous. A massive explosion of fire tore through the cave, and onlookers gasped, certain no one could have possibly dodged an attack that devastating. Yet Fuyuki stood unscathed as Nijiwon was sent flying past him, the shock plain on every face as the outcome defied everyone's expectations. Fuyuki admitted honestly that fighting wasn't his style, and that he had no real desire to clash with anyone, his weariness plain in his voice. Konami spoke up, urging him to look closer, insisting that after coming this far she wanted him to see something in her. Nijiwon snarled, refusing to believe his earlier dodge was anything but luck, vowing to reveal his true strength and prove his dominance. 3 consecutive strikes landed against Nijiwon, each one driven home while Konami reminded herself that avoiding personal conflicts on the way to a dungeon was always wiser. Nijiwon was sent sprawling by a decisive blow, a voice warning him never to underestimate the person he was dealing with. Fuyuki stood calm afterward, the fight already settled, betraying no strain from what had just happened. Konami cried out Nijiwon's name in alarm, while a voice noted quietly how easy it was to be mistaken for a criminal inside a dungeon, since the laws governing such places were murky at best. She admitted she understood the risk now, as another voice sneered that some high-ranking people simply ignored common sense and rules altogether. Warning Fuyuki not to get too cocky, Nijiwon's men rounded on Fuyuki, shouting that there was no way an ordinary man could have beaten a B-rank conqueror, demanding to know what he had done. One of them spun a lie, accusing Fuyuki of taking Konami hostage to threaten Nijiwon, a claim Konami immediately shot down, threatening to sue him for slander. Nijiwon tried to calm the situation, admitting he had taken the hit deliberately for Konami's sake. Though his men continued arguing amongst themselves over what had actually happened, he fixed his gaze on Fuyuki, seething, asking if he understood the weight of what he had done by daring to lay a hand on his face. Nijiwon puffed himself up further, declaring himself the future president of the Nijiwon Group, mocking Fuyuki as nothing more than a copycat who dared call himself a conqueror. He demanded that Konami be handed over to him once and for all, his composure slipping entirely. He ordered her to kneel and show respect, threatening to erase all blame if she simply pretended the incident had been a dungeon accident, promising a generous reward the moment she gave in. Without warning, part of the cave wall shattered outward, leaving everyone stunned and demanding to know who would dare destroy a wall like that. A cheerful stranger stepped through the new opening grinning, as he declared this the best shortcut he could have taken. The group recognized him instantly as Otogi Masakatsu, stunned by his sudden appearance while he teased Nijiwon for overstepping his bounds with their special guest. Whispers spread that an unwanted name had intruded on the reservation, revealing that the Otogi group had long supported dungeon conquerors and stood as the current biggest shareholder in the domestic market. The onlookers struggled to believe 2 ordinary-looking people could warrant personal attention from someone as influential as Otogi Masakatsu himself. In a quiet corner, a man sized up the scrawny figure before him, unimpressed. His companion barked out a loud laugh, mocking how skinny and dull he looked, clearly unaware of who they were dealing with. A younger man snapped to attention. Raising his hand in a sharp salute, he called out leader, before correcting himself under his breath, muttering that he had forgotten the man in front of him was only a former leader now. Years ago, an accident had struck the party that once stood at the very top of the dungeon world. Ever since then, the leader had vanished from public eye, leaving behind only rumors. Someone in the crowd suddenly recognized him as the missing conqueror. Whispers spread through the group. This was the legend, Amano Fuyuki, the man who once tore through monsters with overwhelming strength. Drenched in their blood, his reputation had earned him the title Crimson Silverwolf, a name spoken with both awe and unease. A young woman stumbled over her words, flustered. She recalled that her father had asked Fuyuki for help with business matters. Nearby, a member of the Otoguri family issued a quiet warning, reminding her that laying a hand on a legend carried consequences. The manager insisted the best guide had already been arranged, only for the truth to slip out that this so-called guide was a former leader of a legendary party. The reveal left one man frozen, stunned into silence. Simonu pointed out that his skills were still among the best in the country, questioning why he stayed shut away at home. Fuyuki brushed it off, claiming he had simply been dragged along, insisting this was strictly a one-time favor. Despite his protests, his sharp grin betrayed the truth. He was a natural-born conqueror through and through, no matter how much he tried to deny it. A sudden reaction caught everyone off guard behind her calm expression. Doubt lingered as she admitted she no longer felt the same certainty she once had. With a mischievous grin, she leaned close, warning him not to even think about running away from this arrangement. Excited about the footage they had captured, she declared her determination to become an idol conqueror, convinced that having a legendary mentor by her side was the best possible advantage. Fuyuki admitted he once believed he could only ever protect himself, that few people in this line of work could truly be trusted. She called out his name, cutting through his guarded words. Softly, she confessed she never expected anyone to actually help her, offering a genuine thank you that caught him off guard. With sudden resolve, she declared her decision was final, asking him to take care of her from now on. Brushing aside his stammering protest that he hadn't agreed to anything yet, friends teased her about flirting, joking that Fuyuki would fall for her in no time. She insisted she wanted nothing more to do with dungeons after this, at least for now. Running side by side through the dungeon path, she admitted it had been a long time since she felt this much adrenaline rushing through her veins again. Fuyuki stood in the room with a marker in hand, having just finished sketching a diagram on a whiteboard. He explained that this rough summary represented the current state of dungeons. Kanami rested her cheek on her hand. Clearly unimpressed, she cut him off, asking if he was even listening while she spoke. She stomped her foot down and snapped at him, demanding to know why she had to keep hearing the same lecture over and over. She already had a living legend, the Crimson Silverwolf, as her mentor. Fuyuki held up his phone, trying to get her attention, but she brushed him off and told him to stop rambling. Following the dungeon incident that had gone public, their office suddenly gained unexpected attention. Kanami pointed at her phone, insisting that if they didn't capitalize on the momentum now, she reminded Fuyuki that they were in this together, as stated clearly in his contract. His salary depended directly on her performance, a detail he reluctantly admitted he remembered. Fuyuki flipped to a new page, revealing a list titled Rivals, with 3 names written beneath a star. He explained that these 3 girls represented the top favorites in the dungeon live streaming industry, making them Kanami's biggest rivals. He introduced each one. Mirun had become a hit thanks to her cute outfits and flawless makeup during dungeon streams. Arihara Nanase was known for interviewing dungeon experts and collaborating with major names. Fuyuki noted that Hana's down 2 or 3 actions had earned her strong support from conquerors, even though her main audience consisted of regular players. Kanami admitted she couldn't expect to win over everyone. A staff member pointed out that her targets seemed scattered, but she explained her real goal was to attract top conquerors. She added that they shouldn't only focus on top conquerors. Her phone displayed an article about debuting idols taking on dungeon trials. One such idol, from the same generation as Kanami, had begun posting strategy videos after training under a top-ranked guide. The guide in question ranked 5th nationally, prompting a reaction from Fuyuki. Kanami complained that the pairing felt unfair since the collab would spread through the ranker's audience. When asked if she had her own collab plan, she confirmed she did. Fuyuki, sweating nervously, admitted the truth. Despite being trained by the strongest mentor, Kanami still didn't have many followers. She insisted they needed to act fast. Since news traveled quickly in the entertainment industry, watching her, Fuyuki realized just how seriously she was taking this. Alone with his thoughts, Fuyuki admitted he needed to be more responsible and stop treating mentorship half-heartedly. Kanami reflected quietly, remembering that she had essentially forced him into signing the contract in the first place. She recalled how cool he used to seem, before stammering and denying it aloud when Fuyuki suddenly called her name, catching her off guard. Fuyuki asked Kanami if she wanted to head to a dungeon right then and there. Her face lit up with excitement as she asked if he really meant it. Ruffling her hair, he explained that since there was no turning back now, they might as well make it a regular thing, at least until he found someone to replace him. Later, Kanami stood outside a building with a visibly irritated expression, clearly still stewing over something. She snapped at Fuyuki, demanding to know why. Out of every dungeon available, he had chosen this particular place. He simply replied that an idol shouldn't be making such an unpleasant face in public. The place turned out to be Dungeon Park, a low-ranking dungeon built for beginners. It had become the kind of spot people treated like an amusement park decorated with festival stalls and photo booths instead of danger. A group of onlookers spotted her and began whispering excitedly, stunned to realize the real Shinonome Kanami was standing right there among them, calling her cute and slim. Fuyuki explained that this was exactly why he had booked the dungeon in advance last time, since a beginner spot like this should be more than manageable for her. He admitted his mistake with a sheepish grin, joking that he was pretty famous too. Nearby, a group of men recognized him from the news, though one scoffed that he looked weak enough to be beaten easily, while another asked who the other guy standing with them even was. Kanami quietly told Fuyuki not to mind them. She muttered under her breath that Masakatsu had hired him expecting something impressive, only for it to turn out like this. The mood around them shifted instantly as the same irritating group approached. Again, a sign ahead announced the entrance to the easy dungeon, decorated with balloons like some kind of festival attraction. Fuyuki called out to Konami, and the two agreed it was time to head inside. She urged him to hurry up so they could get the run over with, pointing toward the path marked ahead. As they moved deeper, the same crowd trailed behind them taking pictures, mocking the twin swords strapped to Fuyuki's waist and questioning whether they were even worth showing off. The men taunted him further, accusing him of trying too hard to impress Konami, with one even bragging that he would step in to protect her if Fuyuki failed. Konami turned to keep moving, while Fuyuki muttered dryly that twin swords apparently weren't taken seriously anymore. In a flash of motion, his blade cut cleanly through the air. A magic stone dropped from the kill, and Fuyuki examined it casually, guessing it was worth around 3,000 yen. The onlookers reacted with surprise as the crowd around them kept growing, while Fuyuki firmly told Konami to duck as another threat appeared behind her. A slime splattered across the floor, prompting a flat comment that it was just a good old ordinary slime after all. One of the men perked up, eager to snap a picture as Konami moved to attack. Fuyuki quickly stepped in front, telling her to move aside so he could handle it instead. Konami launched into the air, explaining that defeating a slime required destroying its core completely, or else it would simply respawn, something she already knew perfectly well. A burst of magic tore through the creature in a wave of light and force. The slime disintegrated instantly under the attack, torn apart in a single strike. The onlookers gasped, amazed that one hit had reduced the monster to ashes, praising her power as insane. Fuyuki simply stared, quietly stunned by what he had just witnessed. He reflected that everyone in dungeons possessed magic attributes matching their skills, but true strength and ability came purely from personal talent, not from equipment. Annoyed, she muttered that going all out for a flimsy slime wasn't worth wasting mana on, especially since it was just fan service nearby. The onlookers admitted they genuinely respected how seriously she took being a conqueror idol. With a serious expression, Konami turned to Fuyuki, saying she had something she wanted to ask him. She asked if this entertainment dungeon was truly safe, noting that it seemed designed mainly for ordinary people to earn a little extra money. The fans cheered her name, while she explained she wanted to dive deeper to gather more footage. Fuyuki reassured her, pointing out that even the lowest floor here only contained basic monsters. The two men swarmed in again, gushing about being huge fans and begging for a photo with her. They pressed further, inviting her to join them since their magazine model was about to arrive. Mocking that with so many weaklings around, she hardly needed a mentor at all. One of the men remarked that even small fries could fight back sometimes, calling out someone as a scaredy cat. Fuyuki gripped her hand firmly, warning her not to leave his side. Startled by his sudden intensity, Konami stared at his unusually serious expression, clearly caught off guard by the shift in his demeanor. One of the men rushed ahead eagerly, saying he'd go check things out first, joking about playing Prince Charming, while another muttered that being so flashy in a dungeon like this felt over the top. A massive explosion tore through the corridor, sending debris flying as the group watched in shock. Konami stared in disbelief, unable to process what had just happened in front of her. A grotesque, oversized monster loomed out of the wreckage, and Fuyuki's eyes narrowed sharply as he questioned how such a creature could possibly exist inside a low-ranked dungeon like this. Far within the dungeon passage, a team of explorers suddenly encounters an enormous creature blocking their path. The monster seems to be a colossal golem with a warped mask-like visage and a massive damaged body. Fissures and blackened marks coat its surface, suggesting it has endured countless battles. Seconds afterward, the golem starts to move. Heavy metallic noises reverberate across the corridor as its body slowly rises. Grit and pieces of rock drop from its frame while its limbs grind against the floor. Alarm rapidly sweeps across the area. Multiple adventurers instantly turn about and run toward a nearby passage. Thunderous steps reverberate across the dungeon. As people rush to escape behind them, the golem keeps approaching with measured but relentless steps. Abruptly, the golem hurls its huge arm forward. The assault unleashes immense power, striking the corridor with explosive power. A powerful blast erupts outward as rubble and fragments scatter across the dungeon. Large portions of the wall crumble from the collision. Dense waves of grit flood the air while chunks of stone crash onto the floor. From a distance, multiple adventurers gaze in disbelief at the destruction. Terror sweeps through the dungeon hall as the massive golem continues its rampage. Multiple adventurers rapidly step back while one of them frantically signals the others to take cover. The monster's extraordinary aura makes it obvious that confronting it directly would be extremely dangerous. At that instant, Fuyuki gazes straight toward the golem. His face stays composed and intent, showing no hesitation close. But Konami views him closely, Realizing the unusual determination in his eyes, Fuyuki steps nearer to Konami and silently apologizes for not revealing the situation before. His remarks suggest that he has been concealing something significant. Konami examines his face intently, recognizing that the calm confidence in his eyes has always been there. As the pressure mounts, Konami starts to grasp why Fuyuki came to this dungeon despite the danger. Reports about peculiar irregularities in the dungeon abruptly make more sense. Even authorities assigned for managing the chamber have been unable to seal it. Eventually, Fuyuki reveals the reality in a plain manner. His composed answer supports that facing the golem was part of his purpose from the beginning. Close by, adventurers stay astonished, slowly realizing that the quiet man standing before them may be far stronger than they first believed. The golem's battered head gradually moves as heavy metallic noises echo through the dungeon hall. Its mask-like visage leans forward while the dense cords hanging from its mouth sway slightly. The monster seems to be changing its stance after the earlier destruction. Without notice, the golem charges forward and hurls its massive arm. The sudden assault drives Fuyuki to move immediately. In one quick action, he pulls Konami aside from the approaching blow and slides across the floor to avoid the crushing blow. Following making some distance, Fuyuki places himself between Konami and the approaching monster. The golem faces toward them anew, its heavy steps shaking the floor as it nears. Lifting a hand gently, Fuyuki motions for Konami to stay behind him and observe carefully. Shifting his interest to Konami, Fuyuki momentarily questions if she understands the method used to defeat a golem. The inquiry catches her off guard as she views him intently. At the same time, something about his demeanor feels new, as if his lock has completely shifted. His body erupts into action with sudden agility as he charges toward the towering golem. The weapon in his hand hurls fluidly while he advances, readying to strike the monster directly. Deep fissures grow through its surface, while the cables hanging from its mouth twitch violently. The monster unleashes an angry bellow that echoes through the dungeon corridor. Its blackened, empty eyes lock on the oncoming opponent, sensing the threat moving directly toward it. Fuyuki rushes ahead without delay. His body moves rapidly through the floor while the colossal creation turns to face him. Every heavy step from the golem rattles the ground as it readies to blow. Behind him, the remaining adventurers look in disbelief. The huge golem hurls its heavy arm down with immense force. The assault slams into the floor, scattering rock fragments flying across the hall. At the final instant, Fuyuki jumps aside from the impact zone and lands safely nearby. As moving about the monster, Fuyuki calmly assesses the situation. His weapon stays composed as he examines the golem's structure and movements. Decades of expertise direct his moves while he closes the distance once again. With a mighty action, Fuyuki charges forward and hurls his weapon directly at the towering construct. The assault is directed squarely at the foe as he confronts the golem head-on, proving that retreat was never part of his plan. Fuyuki's weapon gleams as he slashes the golem's arm with both blades. The mighty cut rips across part of the monster's damaged body, sending fragments of stone and dark fluid scattering across the floor. Notwithstanding the damage, the golem stays functional. Its massive body moves while shattered portions reveal the inner structure holding it together. Fuyuki calmly examines the monster while using his blades prepared. His stance stays unconcerned, as if the battle is practically under control. The golem hurls its heavy arms anew, attempting to crush the attacker standing before it. Fuyuki rapidly steps aside while keeping his footing. Grit sweeps across the passage as the monster's weight crashes into the ground. Observing the monster closely, Fuyuki starts demonstrating a different approach to the fight. His body moves fluidly as he readies another skill. The action of his blades turns exact and controlled while he positions himself for the next strike. In one rapid motion, Fuyuki charges forward anew. His swords cut through the golem's huge arm with sharp accuracy. The collision drives the monster back while cracks spread across its body, proving that his precise technique can break through the monster's defenses. His paired blades slash through the monster's enormous body as he moves swiftly around it. Every blow leaves far fissures along the creature's stone armor. The around adventurers look in amazement as he maintains the fight alone. As the battle keeps, the noise of splintering rock echoes through the corridor. The golem's battered body starts to crumble more under the repeated strikes. Onlookers in the distance spot something strange about the warrior. Abruptly, another team enters at the dungeon scene. Fighters of the Otsuki team hurry into the wrecked hall as dust and debris continue to fall around them. Their demeanor offers a wave of ease to the weary explorers. Konami rapidly describes the situation to the arriving team. She reveals toward the ongoing battle wherever Fuyuki continues battling the golem alone. Learning this, the team captain instantly organizes the remaining explorers and begins evacuating everyone from the collapsing corridor. Simultaneously, the battle keeps in the distance as one onlooker examines the battle closely. He quietly notices a detail that confirms his suspicion. The warrior's locks has practically become silver. The extraordinary battle between Fuyuki and the golem keeps deeper within the dungeon. A fighter of the Atsuki team nears her calmly and lightly comforts her. The situation may seem perilous, but he feels confident about their captain's strength. Simultaneously, Fuyuki keeps moving across the combat zone with precise control. His body responds rapidly to each action of the golem. The blades in his grasp move with fine precision, while his entire body seems enhanced during combat. The Atsuki team captain describes the situation confidently to Konami. According to him, once Fuyuki reaches that unique battle condition, defeat becomes nearly impossible. His skills allow him to maintain extraordinary bodily ability while facing powerful enemies. While the account keeps, interest momentarily returns to Fuyuki as he moves across the battlefield with smooth control. His use of paired blades is not merely for display. The blades allow him to maintain footing, agility, and constant pressure against opponents. Far outside the combat zone, the current dungeon complex stands as a proof of how the world has changed. What were once perilous, mysterious places have currently become controlled zones where people can safely explore and even enjoy them as entertainment. While the battle keeps deeper in the dungeon, fighters of the Atsuki team calmly explain the situation to Konami. Current dungeon exploration has evolved greatly over the decades. Nowadays, individuals can readily access online guides that teach how to avoid traps or deal with monsters. The account keeps as they explain how current explorers usually fight. Warriors currently analyze foe behavior and rely on efficient weapon combinations. Lances, barriers, and heavy blades are frequently used because they provide better protection and stronger attacks, though. The earlier was vastly new. In before times, adventurers had no trustworthy information about monsters. Fights were uncertain and exceptionally perilous. Creatures might close gaps immediately or conceal deadly traps. Throughout that time, their captain decided to depend on dual swords. The blades were lightweight and allowed him to move rapidly through the battlefield. With agility and accuracy, he evaded foe attacks while gradually wearing down his opponents. The account finishes with a significant fact. Their captain was once known as the greatest paired swordsman not only in Japan but across the world. After beating numerous creatures before, Fuyuki now calmly focuses on the battle. Rather of merely hitting its body, the actual target lies within a hidden cord connected to the monster's core. While fighting, he reveals out this vulnerability so Konami can grasp the construction of the enemy. Standing before the colossal creation, Fuyuki calmly describes that the center's location constantly changes. Because of that, defeating a golem demands careful attention throughout battle. By striking new sections of its body, a warrior can force the creature to reveal small movements that indicate where the core is hidden. The golem abruptly unleashes a mighty counterstrike. Its massive arm hurls through the passage with tremendous force, forcing Fuyuki to move quickly. Konami shouts from behind as the blow barely misses him, crashing into the ground with a loud crash. Seizing the instant of confusion, Fuyuki jumps aside and avoids the attack completely. His body turns across the air as pieces of rock scatter across the dungeon floor. The monster's heavy motion leaves a gap in its guard. Fuyuki rapidly surges forward anew. His swords flash through the combat zone as he readies the next strike. Across careful attention and misleading motion, he begins setting the trap needed to expose the golem's hidden weakness. With sudden agility, Fuyuki erupts forward through the broken floor. Both blades stretch outward as his body drops into exact attacking stance. The motion is fast and managed, abandoning minimal room for the golem to react. Pieces of rock split open as the hidden structure within the golem becomes visible. Under the heavy shell rests a round mechanism connected to the creature's core. Following closely observing the monster's actions, Fuyuki eventually identifies the true weak point concealed inside the massive body. The critical device is secret straight beneath the golem's foot, protected by its massive weight. Standing just outside the monster's range, he readies to use the moment when the monster's balance changes. Seconds afterward, the golem's motion reveals the hidden part beneath its body. The center abruptly slips loose from the damaged structure and falls onto the ground. Close. By adventurers look in disbelief as the heavy component rolls across the floor, finally separated from the towering construct. Round sorcery construction supports the monster's weakness. Although golems have extraordinary power, their awareness is limited. By hitting the exposed sorcery ring that powers the center, the entire construct can be brought down instantly. Following the battle ends, Fuyuki stands calmly in before of Konami and offers the golem's core toward her. The pressure from the battle eases as he describes the method he used during the battle. Rather than defeating the monster immediately, he intentionally reduced his actions so she could observe the process clearly. Konami stares at him with opened eyes. still absorbing everything she just observed. The battle had happened so rapidly that it feels hard to imagine someone could dismantle such a powerful monster with such control. From a brief distance aside, a fighter of the Atsuki team observes the scene with a calm expression. Viewing Fuyuki battle anew following so long reminds him of the past. A slight grin seems on his visage as he watches the conversation continue between the two. Afterward that evening, the sight moves away from the dungeon, the urban landscape rests silently under the dark sky, tall buildings standing in silence as the busy day finally ends. Within a quiet home, Kanami rests in a warm bath while holding her phone. The incidents of the period return in her thoughts as she scrolls through the device, recalling the astonishing battle she observed. Reports about the dungeon battle sweeps quickly through online platforms. Reports seem widely reporting how a mighty golem suddenly appeared in a low-level dungeon. Even more surprising, the monster was beaten by a lone warrior using dual blades. Resting back silently, Kanami gazes toward the urban lights outside her window. The more she considers about the battle she observed, the more remarkable it seems. Despite viewing everything with her own eyes, successfully recognizing the individual behind that power still feels difficult. Visions of the battle return in her thoughts. Fuyuki's composed face and exact actions remain vivid in her memory. Numerous adventurers practically recognize the name connected to that strength. Among dungeon conquerors, the famed warrior known as the Crimson Silverwolf has long been admired for his peerless skill with dual swords. Kanami remembers that her device was clipped once the team entered the dungeon. The video recorded everything that followed, including the frightening demeanor of the golem and the intense battle that took place afterward. Using her device anew, Kanami pauses before uploading the video. The clip would probably grow rapidly online and attract enormous attention, though she pauses for an instant, recognizing that posting it without Fuyuki's permission would not be the right decision. Kanami rests silently in the tub while thinking about the incidents that happened in the dungeon. The thoughts of Fuyuki defeating the golem unaided keeps to return in her mind. She knows that posting the video would draw huge attention online. Simultaneously, her device rests on a neatly folded cloth beside the bathtub. Without her realizing, the posting progress on the display suddenly reaches its final stage. Seconds afterward, the notice confirms that the video has been fully uploaded. Kanami waited in before the companions with her offers pressed together, clearly overwhelmed by guilt. Her head bowed as she attempted to find the nerve to explain what had happened. Anxious perspiration emerged on her visage while she apologized repeatedly. On a close by device display, a clip about a dungeon incident was already circulating online. The posted video showed a battle within the dungeon, showing Fuyuki confronting a dangerous creature. Online audience might currently watch the moment that was supposed to remain private until proper editing was finished. While attempting to explain the event, Kanami recounted the instant everything went wrong. Throughout the review progress, she momentarily stepped away to take a shower. Her device remained close by as she edited before. Shortly afterward, the phone showed an obvious message confirming the upload had finished. Worry covered Kanami's face as she looked toward Fuyuki, uncertain how he would react. Stillness grew across the time while the outcome of the mistake became unavoidable. Composed interest emerged on Fuyuki's visage as he studied the phone. Rather a fury, he seemed more curious in the situation alone. The rising interest about the video allowed him understand how dungeon livestreaming attracted viewers. Interest rapidly formed about the phone as the group checked the newly uploaded dungeon video. The display showed the quickly climbing amount of viewers and comments. Multitudes of individuals had practically watched the video, and the discussion section continued to grow. Worry gradually faded as the companions discussed the situation. One of them noted out that the video had practically gone popular, so nothing could be done to stop it now. Compared to the significant problems they had endured in the earlier, this incident seemed minor. Fuyuki stayed composed while observing Kanami. His mind focused on the instant within the dungeon when she witnessed his strength against the monster. At first, his extraordinary power left a strong impact. Currently, though, he emerged no new from the quiet person she had come to know. A logical of ease emerged on Kanami's visage as she explained her thoughts. The interest around the video had concerned her because Fuyuki seemed like somebody who preferred to avoid fame. The companions rapidly rejected that worry. From their view, Fuyuki did not hate interest alone. What truly troubled him was something completely new. Abandoning the group relaxed about the growing popularity of the dungeon video. His composed face showed that the situation did not bother him as much as the others expected. Once the subject of interest and publicity appeared again, he revealed the real reason behind his attitude. The issue was not the fame or the rising amount of viewers. Simultaneously, the device display continued showing the viral video. The video of the dungeon battle had practically reached a vast crowd online. Kanami looked at the phone with bewilderment while recognizing the extent of what had happened. As the team spoke more, one of the companions pointed out something unexpected. Fuyuki had initially intended to quit the role once the task was finished. His intention had been to hand the duty to somebody else and leave quietly. Fuyuki exhaled gently as thinking about the situation. The popular video had disrupted his intentions, and the sudden interest made it harder to step away. Through the time, Kanami watched him closely, uncertain how to respond as the reality of the moment settled in. Rather than abandoning the team behind, Fuyuki made a new decision practice would keep, and the party would move forward jointly. Kanami responded with shock, recognizing that she would stay part of the journey as they prepared for the next dungeon. Challenge practice started under the direction of veteran fighters connected to the legendary party. The another regimen instantly became far more intense than expected. Gear was readied, and the trainers showed assurance that this training would push everyone to their limits. Shortly afterward, the practice began. The difficulty became obvious. Kanami labored as the drills demanded far more power and endurance than she anticipated. Perspiration covered her visage as she pushed herself to keep. The following phase involved running through a long forest path. Kanami attempted to keep up while following the companions across the rough terrain. Her actions reduced as exhaustion started to build, and the harsh style of practice felt very different from what she expected. Fuyuki jogged alongside her as observing her condition. He questioned why she was practically losing stamina once the practice had just begun. From his view, improving basic stamina was the first step before entering perilous dungeons. Abruptly, another fighter rushed forward at astonishing agility, passing them in a flash. The mighty motion startled Kanami as she struggled to keep pace. Notwithstanding her exhaustion, the team continued pushing forward while the practice session carried on with relentless intensity. Otogi proudly presented another invention throughout the practice session. He raised a pair of specialized shoes and introduced them as gear designed for high-agility dungeon motion. According to him, the footwear held wind spirit sorcery that would greatly increase a user's mobility. More account rapidly followed. The unique footwear demanded magical energy from the wearer to activate their full effect. Outside of dungeons, their construction made them hard to operate properly. As the dialogue continued, the shoes were placed on the ground close. By the instant they touched the dirt, the heavy collision created a far mark in the exterior. Their demeanor showed agility, but the weight behind the gear became immediately obvious. Kanami neared the footwear with interest. Once she attempted to lift one, the surprising weight shocked her. The gear was considerably heavier than she imagined, and including moving it required significant effort. Afterward questioned Fuyuki about the gear while pointing toward the shoes. He wondered if this type of gear resembled the tools used by famed adventurers in the earlier. Fuyuki calmly examined the gear before giving a plain answer, indicating that such training tools were nothing unusual. Following the exhausting practice session, the team rested in a quiet forest clearing. Kanami sat on the floor with a cloth about her neck while catching her breath. A bottle of water rested in her palm as she gradually recovered from the demanding exercises. Interest grew in her thoughts as she thought about the stories around his former party. According to the accounts she found, the famous party known as the Crimson Silverwolf had practically become famed even before she decided to become an adventurer. The knowledge on her display showed that the Crimson Silverwolf consisted of 4 fighters who once worked together as a powerful adventuring group. Their reputation grew throughout Japan due to their achievements within perilous dungeons. Continued reading and learned that 2 fighters of the party had gone missing throughout that event, abandoning only one survivor behind. The fact made her look towards Fuyuki, wondering whether he still carried memories of that event. He eventually broke the stillness by mentioning somebody who had been attempting to contact Fuyuki. According to him, Fuyuki was steadily disregarding those requests for some time. Fuyuki steadily denied the accusation, but the discussion hinted that unresolved matters from the earlier were still following him. Knowledge she read about his previous party raised more questions in her thoughts. Accounts stated that, except for Fuyuki, different teammate from the Crimson Silverwolf had not gone missing. Otogi noticed Kanami's interest and talked about the event more seriously. According to him, the lost fighters had never returned following the accident. Their vanishing was not a hearsay or a confusion. The reality was that they had fully vanished throughout the disaster within the dungeon. The disaster caused a perilous phenomenon known as a dungeon disaster. Sometimes, peculiar spatial rifts seen within certain dungeons. Anyone who becomes drawn into these distortions disappears immediately. Despite what occurred, he still carried a logical duty for the tragedy. Kanami looked toward him and gently attempted to remind him that disasters within dungeons were uncertain and not the fault of any lone person. Fuyuki had practically decided that risking his life within dungeons was not anymore anything he wanted to pursue. For him, there was not anymore any cause to keep putting situation on the line. The quiet instant in the forest was interrupted once Otogi abruptly received a device call. He raised the phone while looking gently annoyed, reminding the caller that he had intended to take the period off. Otogi then lifted his device and showed the display to the companions. The notice concerned the previous dungeon video wherever Fuyuki had destroyed a golem throughout the livestream. Anything about that dungeon had caught the interest of companions who were investigating the situation. Knowledge showed on the display showed that there might be a serious problem related to that location. The contact frantically asked them to return and investigate the dungeon anew. At the same time, another livestream abruptly emerged digital. The stream featured an idle adventurer named Irina exploring a dungeon with a high-ranked direct though. The stream rapidly became into a desperate situation as she called for backup throughout the broadcast. Emergency notice explained that a teleportation scheme had activated on the third ground of the dungeon. As a result, Irina had been transported to a mysterious position far within the structure. Currently detached from her direct and fully lost, she struggled to understand where she had been sent. Shattered pillars, scattered stones, and blackened marks covered the surroundings, making a dangerous atmosphere. She knelt on the floor while attempting to stay composed, but terror was exposed in her posture. Observing the broadcast from the forest, Kanami abruptly realized the seriousness of the situation. If Irina had been moved beyond the 50th floor, the chamber would practically be considered a high-rank area. These levels were far beyond the difficulty that most beginners might survive. The idea unaided made the situation noise exceptionally perilous. Simultaneously, Irina's stream continued to display her surroundings. Peculiar shadows and ongoing noises hinted that creatures were close. The digital audience responded with mixed opinions, with some believing the situation was real while companions assumed it was only a staged performance. Otogi said that he wished to save her, though he hesitated because of the extreme risk. Kanami responded strongly, insisting that the circumstances was worse than it emerged, including if the stream looked dramatic, Irina was properly in real risk. Images of mighty creatures emerged as the dialogue continued. Creatures capable of surviving on the 50th floor were exceptionally perilous and might overwhelm ordinary adventurers. Kanami stared at the live stream on her device while attempting to grasp the situation. The video showed Irina unaided within a perilous dungeon area. Reports showed that it had become a rush upon time. If creatures reached her before a rescue party arrived, her chances of survival would drop rapidly. The team continued discussing potential answers. Kanami looked towards Fuyuki with urgency, hoping somebody strong might intervene. Though companions explained that reaching such a far floor normally required a top-rank adventurer, Fuyuki afterward presented the findings of the analysis conducted by Otogi Corporation. Their data showed that even veteran adventurers would struggle to range the 50th floor quickly enough. The labyrinth's layout and dangers made fast travel almost unthinkable. Learning this made the situation seem even more disrupted. Standing silently in the forest clearing, Fuyuki observed the livestream video anew. The chaotic construction of the dungeon was obvious even across the clip. Its unstable environment confirmed that Irina was trapped in an exceptionally perilous there. Away within the labyrinth, Irina's condition worsened. Terror covered her mind as she remained unaided in the ruined chamber. With no allies close by and no obvious path to flee, she struggled to stay composed, while hoping that someone would come to save her. The livestream abruptly recorded Irina in an instant of alarm. Rips covered her eyes as she struggled to stay composed within the ruined dungeon chamber. Surrounded by stillness and risk, she urgently asked for help. Recollections rapidly surfaced in Kanami's thoughts. She recalled the time once she had edited alongside Irina in the very industry. Their relationship was not exceptionally strong, yet they had shared experiences as colleagues. Viewing Irina in such risk made those memories return with surprising power. From her view, Irina had consistently been somebody who edited tirelessly, whether on stage or during other activities. Because of that dedication, Kanami assumed Irina did not deserve to visage such risk unaided deep inside a dungeon. Fuyuki softly rested a palm on Kanami's head, calming her emotions. He recognized her worry, but the circumstances required careful thinking. According to him, the merely individual capable of reaching Irina rapidly was somebody with exceptional ability. At that instant, all faith appeared to rest on him. Notwithstanding the severe risk, Fuyuki readied himself for action. The 50th floor was known as a lethal area wherever survival was never guaranteed, including so he silently made up his thoughts. He tightened his gloves and adjusted his shell as standing beside the gear. His face became significant as he readied himself. The risk of the far dungeon was obvious, but he understood that delaying any longer would merely reduce Irina's chances of survival. Within the labyrinth, a horned goblin rushes forward with its claws raised and teeth exposed. Blackened streaks of action surround the monster as it readies to attack anything in front of it. Close by, a young woman holds her device while clipped the sight. Through the rock floor, multiple creatures suddenly collapse one after another. A young warrior moves across the chamber with astonishing speed, striking enemies before they can react. Blackened marks from his strikes grow through the ground as defeated creatures fall around him. Close-by allies watch the battle while the warrior keeps advancing. One companion stands with a shield and views calmly, while another examines the combat zone with an intent expression. Simultaneously, the warrior delivers another exact blow against an approaching monster. Shortly afterward, the warrior drops his weapons slightly as the battle slows down. Most creatures through the third floor have practically been eliminated. The shield-bearing companion rests and recognizes that the main portions of the chamber are almost fully cleared behind them. The girl watches the team closely. Fact sweeps through her visage as she understands something important. The warriors escorting her have not used their full power. Their managed moves expose the actual power of a legendary party. On a quiet path near the dungeon entrance, 3 individuals find to discuss their following step. The youthful man at the center calmly informs the companions that transportation has practically been arranged. He also says that he will help with the mission from his side. Interest then moves to the girl listening closely to the dialogue. The companions clarify that she will be joining them for the following exploration. One of the fighters recalls the team that the 5th floor is considered a top-ranked dungeon area. The discussion keeps as the party evaluates the situation. One fighter confidently describes that her participation would be helpful for the mission. Another reveals out that she still needs more field expertise to expand heavier as an explorer. A more significant account comes when one of the veteran warriors describes that even veterans cannot predict everything within a dungeon. Acting unaided would be exceptionally perilous, especially in deeper floors wherever unexpected threats appear without warning. Following learning the reasoning, the girl silently accepts the situation. Though worry stays exposed on her face, she decides that after a backup intention is necessary in case the mission turns more perilous than expected. The team keeps discussing their intention outside the dungeon. Communication within far floors is unreliable, so contacting allies straight will not be easy. Because of that limitation, the party considers alternative ways to request assistance if the situation turns perilous. Interest then moves to a subtle phone held carefully in someone's hands. The gear is meant to broadcast the dungeon assault while the party moves across the perilous floors. Kanami receives directions about her part in the mission. Shortly afterward, Kanami opens her device and reviews a live broadcast platform. The display confirms a stream linked to the dungeon exploration led by Fuyuki. Recognizing the importance of the instant, she knows that somebody watching the broadcast could recognize what is happening. Simultaneously, the 2 warriors consider the situation closely. Fuyuki seems hesitant about meeting somebody linked to his former famed party, though the companions imagine that anyone related to that team must possess great strength. Resolve forms on Kanami's visage as she holds her device firmly. She chooses not to depend on Fuyuki's fame for her own benefit. Rather, she opens an independent account to broadcast the event herself. Across this choice, she readies to announce the return of a famed explorer to the world. Within the dungeon, Fuyuki charges forward with his weapon prepared. His actions are fast and managed as he cuts across creatures, blocking the path. At the same time, Kanami's livestream starts attracting interest. Digital comments start appearing quickly as audience spot the surprising broadcast. While the battle keeps, Kanami checks her device and monitors the broadcast. She notices the stream is spreading rapidly through the platform, although the battle has merely taken there on the 3rd floor. She knows the crowd still has not seen the full extent of Fuyuki's power. Elsewhere in the dungeon, another party fighter examines a phone and notices something significant. A secret time has been discovered close by. The discovery might offer a useful position for the team to rest or plan their next move. Fuyuki nears with Kanami alongside him, checking whether everything is under command. Following learning the reports, Fuyuki considers the situation calmly. Climbing each ground one by one would seek far too long for their mission. Rather, he proposes seizing a faster way to move deeper into the dungeon. Kanami responds with shock as she hears the title linked to that plan. The proposal leaves her confused, and she starts wondering what Fuyuki is planning. Following, Fuyuki gazes at his companions and calmly describes the following step of their intention. Rather of climbing each floor across normal routes, the party will use a teleportation trap hidden inside the dungeon. Without delay, one of the teammates starts crashing part of the wall close by. Heavy blows blow the exterior continuously, scattering fragments of stone flying across the floor. The action seems reckless at first, but the party properly knows what they are searching for behind the construction. Soon, the shattered wall reveals a secret chamber within the dungeon. The team walks forward calmly as if this strange method is fully normal for them. One of the fighters describes that they used similar tricks numerous times during previous expeditions. At the center of the secret time, a teleportation ring turns visible on the floor. Symbols carved into the rock reveal the aura of a magical scheme, though. With enough expertise and careful analysis, the scheme can function as a shortcut rather of a danger. As the party readies to move forward, the captain casually describes another detail. The experimental devices retained by their companion often help with strange exploration methods. The team stands near the teleportation ring while Konami keeps streaming the situation to audience online. Messages from the crowd seem quickly as individuals react to what they are seeing. Some audience inquiry whether Konami is safe, while companions joke about the peculiar strategy the team is using. Following examining the ring closely, the party leader explains an important detail. Each teleportation scheme on this ground leads to the same destination. Because of this, they imagine they will eventually meet Irina if she joined the dungeon before. Without wasting time, Fuyuki strides ahead toward the glowing ring. His actions display almost no delay as he activates the teleportation scheme. Konami views in disbelief as he abruptly disappears into the lightweight. The surviving teammates start moving as well, reminding Konami that staying behind within the dungeon is far more perilous. The teleportation ring keeps to shine as the companions prepare to follow. Eventually, resolve replaces her delay. With a thunderous shout, Konami jumps ahead and throws herself into the teleportation scheme. The radiant lightweight surrounds her as she disappears, following the companions deeper into the dungeon. A powerful sight unfolds instantly following the teleportation. A huge orc-like monster rests collapsed on the ground while Konami rests close by, still recovering from the sudden transfer. The monster's massive body and fine tusks expose that it is far stronger than ordinary dungeon enemies. Seconds afterward, Fuyuki and the companions seem nearby. One teammate describes that the monster had attacked abruptly, forcing him to destroy it rapidly before it could cause serious damage. Following examining the situation, Fuyuki concludes that if this monster was the first foe they encountered, their current position must already be beyond the 5th floor. Team starts analyzing the situation closely. Fuyuki describes that although he can merely logical the aura of monsters nearby, the atmosphere of this area clearly feels different from the earlier floors. Recognizing the danger, Fuyuki gives insignificant instruction to Masakatsu. He questions him to keep a close look on Konami while they keep exploring. Protecting her turns a priority as the party readies to move forward. Konami silently gazes down while using her device. A title seems in her mind as she remembers somebody important connected to the situation. The possibility of meeting that individual within the dungeon starts to weigh heavily on her thoughts. Far within another section of the dungeon, a young girl rests unaided behind a damaged pillar. Her surroundings are quiet, yet the stillness merely increases her terror. Blackened marks mark the floor and walls, displaying signs of previous fights. A live stream from Konami keeps running, posting that companions are still functional somewhere in the dungeon. Viewing the stream makes her realize how significant the situation has become. Regret gradually fills her thoughts as she starts to inquire her own decisions. Once Konami first started streaming Labyrinth Exploration, the girl decided to follow the same path. She assumed conquering a dungeon would be plain, just like the exciting broadcasts all watch digital. Truth rapidly became otherwise. The difference between real risk and recreation turns painfully obvious. While some adventurers risk their lives to save companions, she remembers the individual who trained her for fully different reasons. With trembling offers, she browses across her device and sees repeated calls to the same contact. The individual she believed never responded. Accepting that no help will come from him, the girl silently drops her head, eventually recognizing she must face the consequences alone. Unaided in the silent dungeon hall, the girl curls up on the floor while rips run down her visage. Terror gradually takes command of her mind. With no answer from the individual she trusted and no rescue party in sight, she starts believing that no one will come to save her. Abruptly, another messages seem on her device screen. Individuals observing Konami's livestream start spreading reports that someone is heading toward the danger. At first, numerous audience imagine it must be Shuma arriving to help. Though uncertainty rapidly replaces that hope, the audience consider another possibility rather of Shuma. Some remember learning about a trainer linked to Konami, but his fame was never impressive. Simultaneously, a subtle floating device keeps broadcasting the situation inside the dungeon. Individuals digital assume the oncoming adventurer will quickly give up after gaining a bit of attention. From their view, entering such a perilous there unaided would be reckless and pointless. Without notice, a mighty warrior erupts into the battlefield. Moving faster than the eye can follow, the warrior cuts across close by creatures in a single rush. Observing the sight unfold, the girl abruptly recognizes the individual who appeared before her. Konami frantically speaks towards the livestream device while standing beside her companion. She describes that their party has practically reached the same dungeon floor wherever Ririna is trapped. Hoping the notice nears her, Kanami questions all watching the stream to tell Ririna to give them some kind of signal. Far aside within the dungeon passage, Ririna views the stream on her phone. The unexpected notice startles her. Her offers tremble gently as she realizes that the rescuers might truly be close. Notwithstanding the hope, delay fills her thoughts. Making noise might expose her stance to creatures hiding in the dungeon. The fact that nobody have located her yet practically feels like a miracle, though remaining quiet carries another risk. Her mind rushes amid the two dangers. If she stays reserved, the searchers might search the whole floor too late. If she makes a noise close by, creatures might instantly detect her location. Either result feels risky, and the pressure within the empty hallway mounts heavier with every second. Eventually, resolve replaces her terror. Ririna grasps a steel bar firmly while standing in the long passage, recognizing that time is running out. She chooses she must deliver a signal. Ririna grasps the steel rod tightly while standing in the silent passage. Her pulse races as she readies to make a signal for the rescuers. Abruptly, a notice seems across the livestream comments. Somebody frantically reveals out the risk behind her. Huge monster abruptly seems behind her, colossal over the narrow hallway. The monster raises its blade and readies to blow without hesitation. Ririna faces just in time to see the massive warrior looming above her. Before the monster can bring its blade down, a sudden motion charges into the passage. A mighty warrior reaches the combat zone at incredible speed. The instant the monster's assault starts, the rescuer enters directly between the creature and Ririna. A fine blow cuts across the air as the warrior attacks instantly. The weapon slices across the monster with extraordinary power, stopping the attack before it can reach its target. As the monster drops, the warrior stands calmly with his blade prepared. Ririna gazes up in amazement while still using her device tightly. The individual who emerged before her is none remaining than Fuyuki, the famed explorer whose return had already begun spreading through the live stream. Ririna collapses to the ground as rips stream down her visage. The disbelief of almost being slain and the sudden rescue overwhelm her emotions. Fuyuki remains close, by following defeating the monster that attacked her. The pressure eventually breaks as Ririna starts crying loudly. Ease replaces the terror she had been using for so long. Fuyuki views her silently as staying alert to the surroundings. Even though the immediate risk has passed, the dungeon stays uncertain. Abruptly, the ground trembles gently as a massive monster appears deeper in the corridor. The monster's huge form dwarfs everything close by. Fuyuki steps forward instantly, positioning himself between the monster and Ririna as the following battle starts. Within the dungeon, a huge monster reveals its frightening form. Its head breaks open, revealing rows of fine teeth and a long tongue twisting upward. The monster roars as blackened energy pours about it. In before of the monster, a youthful man stands calmly while a frightened girl stays behind him. Far aside from the combat zone, a man rests at a desk in before of multiple monitors. He views the current labyrinth broadcast with great interest. Using his device while observing the display, he examines the situation carefully. Back within the dungeon, the monster strikes with powerful power. The monster hurls its blade and moves aggressively toward the pair. The young man rapidly pulls the girl into his arms and moves aside from the assault. The man shields the woman while keeping his eyes on the foe. He keeps her strong, shielding her from risk. His face stays significant as he readies to face the monster directly. Shortly afterward, remaining adventurers arrive and find around the girl. Ease sweeps across the team as they confirm she is safe, while the battle inside the dungeon continues. Fuyuki steps forward and readies his swords while battling the monster at rear. Masakatsu remains prepared. Fuyuki motions that he will handle the battle while the companions protect the surviving individuals. Without delay, he rushes toward the monster. His motion is rapid and managed as he narrows the distance. Blade gleams as Fuyuki slashes the monster. His weapon cuts across the air with accuracy, forcing the monster backward. The mighty foe roars loudly as the assault alights. In the distance, the companions look the battle with worry while keeping the injured girl safe. Amid the onlookers, a young woman views calmly. Assurance seems in her face as she concentrates on the fight. She believes that Fuyuki's power is enough to destroy the foe. To her, his fame as a famed dungeon conqueror stays unquestionable. Away in the combat zone, Fuyuki jumps toward the monster. His body rests into the air as he readies another decisive blow. The monster lifts its huge blade and attempts to counter the assault. The monster slams its blade into the ground with immense power. The floor fissures and breaks open as rubble scatters widely. The heavy collision rattles the whole dungeon floor while the battle between the famed fighter and the monstrous enemy continues. Masakatsu advances ahead and lifts his shield. A round barrier forms in before of him as he blocks the power spreading through the battlefield. Behind him, the wounded girl and another companion stay under his defense. Close by, two women watch the battle from a safer distance. One of them views the battle with assurance, recalling how powerful Fuyuki was in the past. The remaining still gazes concern, but hope starts to return as they recall his reputation as a legendary dungeon conqueror. The older girl keeps to look the battle closely. Her composed face confirms strong trust in Fuyuki's skills. She believes that including following time has passed. His power has not faded. At the center of the wrecked chamber, Fuyuki stands with his paired swords prepared. Rubble and shattered rock fly across the ground around him. Some onlookers doubt that one warrior might destroy such a monster, yet his posture remains steady as he prepares for the next attack. Fuyuki charges ahead and clashes with the monster anew. The monster hurls its heavy blade while Fuyuki counters with rapid strikes. Their strikes collide violently, scattering shockwaves across the cracked floor as the battle intensifies. He stands unaided in the battered chamber, while pieces of the broken floor and walls continue to fall around him. His stance stays composed despite the devastation. At a distance, two women look the sight with alarm. Masakatsu stays in before of the companions with his shield raised, keeping the team shielded. The women still seem uneasy as they look toward the combat zone, though Masakatsu confirms assurance and describes through his calm expression that Fuyuki is not in danger. Its massive body looms through the shattered floor while the warrior stands quietly before it. Rather than retreating, Fuyuki views the monster closely. His eyes stay intent, posting that the current situation is part of his intention. Monster strikes anew with mighty hurls. Fuyuki moves rapidly, seizing both swords to dodge and deflect the heavy slashes. Every motion is managed and exact, allowing him to avoid the monster's weighty blows. As the battle keeps, the monster turns successfully focused on him. Fuyuki understands this response and uses it to direct the battle. By drawing the monster's interest fully toward himself, he readies the next step of his strategy. Kanami views from the side while Fuyuki faces the colossal monster in the wrecked hall. Despite the risk, he stands calmly with both swords prepared. A confident grin seems on his visage as he concentrates on the enemy at rear. Kanami responds with bewilderment. The battle is still perilous, but Fuyuki's composed behavior surprises her. Rather than displaying terror, he keeps to approach the fight with confidence, as if the battle is completely under control. Fuyuki abruptly moves forward and unleashes another assault. The monster hurls its heavy blade, but he slips earlier the blow with quick footwork. Some creatures conceal their vulnerable reveals, yet Fuyuki does not hesitate. Rather, he aims straight at the chamber wherever the enemy seems most vulnerable. His swords blow continuously as he drives the monster back. Every hit alights with accuracy, forcing the monster to lose balance. As soon as the assault proves effective, he keeps the same strategy without delay. The last attack follows instantly. Fuyuki cuts across the monster's guard and pushes forward with relentless power. Rubble scatters through the chamber as his strikes tear across the enemy, steadily bringing the fierce battle closer to its conclusion. Blackened blood splashes through the floor and walls as the monster collapses under the collision. The powerful ending startles the onlookers. The sight turns so demanding that those observing the broadcast believe the stream might even be banned because of the brutality, its frame not anymore able to advance. Fuyuki stands over the beaten foe, his sword still raised. For him, the outcome is plain. A monster that relies merely on brute power cannot overcome somebody who knows how to fight properly inside a dungeon. Kanami views the sight with opened eyes. The battle has shown her how perilous real dungeon fights can be. Viewing the fallen monster and the devastation about them, she eventually begins to understand the harsh reality of this world. Through the chamber, the massive monster rests motionless while Fuyuki stands nearby, covered in blood from the battle. Despite the brutal battle, he stays composed, confirming once again why he is known as a legendary conqueror. Following the battle finishes, Fuyuki gradually nears the others. Kanami gazes at him anxiously and apologizes for what occurred. Rather than focusing on himself, Fuyuki merely checks whether all else is safe. Fuyuki faces aside following the battle, his clothes still stained from the battle. Kanami remains in before of him, surprised by his worry. She rapidly tells him that she is unharmed and thanks him for protecting her. With the mighty monster beaten, the footing within the dungeon has changed. Without the monster that managed the chamber, the surviving monsters will begin fighting each other for territory. Recognizing the risk, Fuyuki instantly gives instructions to the team. Masakatsu readies to lead the way while the companions follow intently behind. Fuyuki chooses to look over Kanami and the wounded girl as they move. Including though the battle has ended, he recalls all that the dungeon is still far from safe. Masakatsu examines the area closely while thinking about the best route forward. A A faster path will be necessary to flee before the creatures find a new. The team starts readying to move rapidly through the damaged hall. Far within the dungeon, another creatures start to appear. More creatures move across the corridors, drawn by the noise and the absence of their fallen captain. The risk within the dungeon keeps to expand as the group prepares to leave. The team moves closely across an open corridor inside the dungeon. The long hallway stretches far ahead, making the exit hard to locate rapidly. Fuyuki walks behind the companions as judgment about their situation. He understands his endurance is not unlimited, especially following the recent battle. He examines the large rock wall obstructing their path. Destroying it would take time and might create thunderous noise that attracts creatures close. The team stops as they weigh the risk. Abruptly, a notice reverberates across the corridor. A huge hand erupts across the wall with powerful force. Rock and grit fly through the floor as the structure collapses. From the shattered gap, blackened shapes start emerging from the shadows. Large team of undead creatures pours into the passage. Flying creatures and warped figures advance toward the team in great numbers. Their aura rapidly fills the chamber around the path forward. Recognizing the risk, Fuyuki instantly readies for another battle. He instructs the companions to protect the two women while he faces the enemies. Among the oncoming creatures, heavier undead seem, proving this fight will be far more difficult than the previous one. A rising wave of creatures fills the passage. Creatures of new forms emerge from the shadows, their numbers climbing quickly. Fuyuki runs ahead to confront them while the companions stay behind. He knows that even somebody as strong as Fuyuki cannot battle endlessly upon such overwhelming numbers. Behind him, the two girls look concerned as they see the crowd of enemies around the chamber. Despite the risk, Fuyuki confirms no delay. Fuyuki wipes the blood from his visage and readies himself anew. Fatigue burdens on him following the previous battle, yet he accepts the situation without complaint. Shielding the team leaves him with merely one choice. The creatures close in from each direction as Fuyuki charges forward to meet them. His swords move rapidly as he cuts across the first enemies in his path. From behind, one of the girls views with alarm as he rushes straight into the crowd. His strikes blow with agility and accuracy. Multiple creatures drop immediately as their bodies are torn apart by his blades. Pieces of the beaten enemies fly through the floor while the battle upon the endless horde continues. He keeps slicing across the undead horde. His swords move in open arcs, tearing open the creatures rushing toward him. Severed arms and shattered bodies fly through the floor as he pushes deeper into the crowd. Collision clears a large space about him, abandoning the ground covered with beaten enemies. Fuyuki alights firmly while the companions look from behind, astonished by the sheer power of his attack. As the grit ends, a blackened passage seems at the end of the corridor from that shadowed entrance. Another warrior strides forward. A woman carrying a long blade walks calmly into the time, her aura instantly drawing everyone's attention. The team rapidly understands the newcomer. She is Sakura Natsume, a renowned adventurer known through the country. Including Fuyuki and the companions pause in shock as the top-ranked adventurer stands before them. Sakura describes her arrival with a composed face. She has come to help, though her sudden demeanor interrupts the situation within the dungeon. While the team processes her aura, the battle about them has not fully ended. Darkness surrounds her aura as she readies to assault the creatures ahead. She steadily states that the battle will end rapidly if she is allowed to blow once. Her stance confirms complete assurance in her power. Fuyuki instantly raises both offers, attempting to reverse her. He knows how mighty Sakura's assault can be and realizes that a direct blow could cause serious damage to everything nearby. The companions look nervously as the situation abruptly turns tense. Before the argument can keep, Sakura moves nearer and places her arm about Fuyuki. Her unexpected action interrupts the instant of pressure. Rather of striking, she pulls him into a close hold, stopping the situation from escalating more. They gaze in disbelief at what just occurred. They did not anticipate a sudden and casual reaction from somebody as famous as Sakura. Simultaneously, Fuyuki remains there, surprised by the surprising gesture. Masakatsu views the sight silently from the side. Following everything that just occurred, he merely accepts the situation with a composed expression as the tension inside the dungeon momentarily fades. Ease seems on her visage as she holds him tightly following seeing him again inside the dangerous dungeon. The instant reveals that their connection goes far beyond a plain meeting between adventurers. His tired face shifts into bewilderment while he gazes at Sakura standing so close to him. Following everything that occurred in the dungeon, her sudden demeanor and emotional reaction quit him completely caught off guard.